Hello, my name is Wayne Ergel. Welcome to the channel. My first experience with alcohol came in 1976 when I was 14 years old. Some of the older kids in the neighborhood had stolen some beer from their parents, took it to our treehouse where we drank it. I drank 2 beers and I was drunk for the first time. This little adventure was the start of over 40 years of drinking. From 1976 to 2018, my alcohol consumption progressed from a few beers every once in a while to drinking nearly 2 bottles of vodka straight from the bottle nearly every day. I quit drinking in 2018 and have a little over 4.5 years of sobriety at the time of this recording. While I drink for over 40 years, I count my addiction as starting in 1996 when I first tried to quit and failed. So I was addicted to alcohol roughly from 1996 to 2018, a period of approximately 22 years. During this time, I treated people like shit. I lost all sense of who I am. I lost an incredible amount of time. I got divorced and remarried, faced divorce again. My wife told me she hated me. I made and lost a lot of money. I got fired from 2 jobs. And an addiction treatment center told me they couldn't admit me because they couldn't afford for me to die on the premises. I built the foundation of my addiction from my early teen years up until 1996. During this time, my drinking went from infrequently drinking beer to regularly and heavily drinking beer to drinking vodka straight. During this time, 3 tipping points led me further into addiction. The first occurred in the 80s in college when I started doing shots. This set the stage for me drinking alcohol straight, a practice I continued throughout my addiction. I graduated from college in 1984 and started drinking more heavily. And I started drinking at home, which was the second tipping point in my addiction and a practice I continued throughout it. In the early 90s, things worsened when I started drinking vodka straight from a glass. You'll see why in a moment. It's important that I specified from a glass. Vodka became my drug of choice and continued to be so through 2018 when I quit. As I said, I built the foundation to my addiction from my early teens up until 1996. I drank more, I began doing shots, I started drinking at home alone, and vodka became my drug of choice. In 1996, at a routine visit to the doctor, I learned that my blood pressure was extremely high. At the time, I didn't know that alcohol could cause this. Having high blood pressure concerned me. It concerned me enough to try to quit drinking for the first time. So through willpower alone, which I thought is what you were supposed to do, I quit drinking. Unfortunately, I fell off the wagon 30 days later during a business trip to Chicago when I decided that I could drink like normal people, which is very, very far from the truth. Soon, I was back to my old habits. As I mentioned earlier, I consider this first attempt to quit drinking and failing as day 0 in my addiction. Most likely I was addicted well before this, but it's the best measuring point that I have. As I said earlier, it was important to note that I drank vodka straight out of a glass in my 3rd tipping point. The 4th tipping point came in 2007 when I decided pouring it into a glass was a waste of time and started drinking straight from the bottle. From this point forward, much of my drinking came straight from the bottle. With a long period of drinking and 4 tipping points pushing me further into addiction, I wanted to quit again in 2008. At this point, I was drinking a bottle of vodka and several beers or several glasses of wine 4 to 5 days a week. Periodically, I'd quit for a few days or maybe even a week, but it never lasted and I always went back to drinking. So in 2008, knowing I couldn't quit on my own, I went to a well-known rehabilitation center in Atlanta. Unfortunately, the program was a bad fit for me and I left after 3 days. I did manage to stay sober for about 90 days, but it didn't stick either and was soon back to drinking again. In late 2008, a new management team took over the startup where I worked in sales, and they eliminated most of the sales team, including me, so I found myself without a job. When this happened, I decided to take 6 months off. Unfortunately, it turned into 2 years of unemployment and led to the 5th tipping point in my drinking, which was, with the freedom of no job accountability, I started drinking during the day. Before going on, I'll recap these 5 tipping points because they were such huge milestones in my addiction. Doing shots in college was the first tipping point as it set the stage for drinking alcohol straight. Early in my work career, the second tipping point occurred when I started drinking at home alone. The third tipping point came in the early 90s when I started drinking vodka straight from a glass. The fourth tipping point came in 2007 when I abandoned the glass and started drinking straight from the bottle. 2 years of unemployment from 2008 to 2010 led to the fifth tipping point, which was drinking during the day. So back to the story. Thankfully, after 2 years of unemployment, I got a job, but I did still continue to drink. In early 2013, I knew drinking was going to kill me and contemplated quitting. I knew I couldn't quit on my own, so I went to see an addiction counselor starting in around April 2013. But I continued to drink even during counseling. After a few sessions, my counselor very bluntly told me that if I wanted to quit drinking, I would actually have to stop doing it. She urged me to quit immediately and to start attending SMART recovery meetings. So in June of 2013, I did quit drinking, and I started attending the Tuesday and Thursday night SMART recovery meeting in Cumming, Georgia. For 6 months, I was diligent in coming to the meetings. I went every Tuesday and Thursday without missing one. But as time went on, I began to go less frequently and stopped altogether after about 9 months. Not surprisingly, after about a year, I started drinking again, and it was no thought of moderation. It was straight back to the heavy drinking that I had been doing before I quit. I want to make a quick note about SMART recovery. SMART stands for Self-Management and Recovery Training. It is a science-based addiction program. It includes support group meetings and tools to deal with urges, cravings, and to motivate you in recovery. SMART is huge in my recovery, and I'll do more videos on it in the future. But if you want to know more about it right now, I put a link to the SMART Recovery website in the description below. In the summer of 2017, my state of being was horrible. I was drinking 2 bottles of vodka nearly every day. If I wasn't passed out, I was drinking, and divorce papers were on the kitchen table. With only the tiniest slivers of hope of ever being free from addiction, I reached out to the Carter Treatment Center in Cumming, Georgia for an addiction assessment. I don't remember why, but the assessment was scheduled several weeks after I made the call, so I went on one of the worst binges of my life. The day of my assessment came and I was in terrible physical condition. My hands were shaking so badly that I couldn't even hold a bottle of water, which I proved by spilling water all over the program director's desk. Not long into the assessment, the program director looked at me and said, "Honey, we can't admit you. We can't afford for you to die on the premises." She continued, fortunately, and said, "You have to go to detox first." So without notice to my wife or to work, I disappeared into detox. I left detox 5 days later and started the intensive outpatient program at the Carter Treatment Center in July of 2017. The program lasted 3 months and included group sessions 3 days a week for 3 hours, individual counseling, and alternative therapies. I graduated from Carter's IOP in October of 2017 and thought drinking was behind me forever. Despite the hard work I put into treatment and aftercare, I began to relapse in early 2018. Relapse is not unusual, so I wasn't that worried about it, but they kept happening, and each one was longer and worse than the previous one. As it became clear that I was going back to drinking for good, my mother convinced me to go back to treatment. I met with my treatment counselor, and she strongly urged me to come back to a 2-week refresher in the intensive outpatient program at Carter, and to start on a medication called naltrexone, which blocks the euphoric effects of alcohol. Both of these I did. Even though I relapsed, my mindset changed during the intensive outpatient program and carried over into the refresher. I now knew absolutely that I did not want to be a drunk for the rest of my life. And this was key going into the 2-week refresher. On naltrexone and with a positive mindset, I entered the refresher in June of 2018. I had 6 group sessions to get back on track. I was determined but worried. I was there because I had relapsed, and what was going to stop me from doing it again? Fortunately, the refresher was successful, and I have been sober for over 4.5 years at the time of this recording. In conclusion, I made this video to let you know that it is possible to quit drinking, even though it may not seem to be. I was heavily addicted to alcohol for over 20 years. I drink 2 bottles of vodka nearly every day, and I quit. And I know that you can do it too. And while there's no doubt quitting is hard, it is absolutely worth it. I hope you hear something in this video or one of the other ones on the channel that helps you get on the road to recovery or motivates you to stay on it. Please let me know in the comments if you did. And thank you so much for watching. And please check back often for new content.